Hey everybody, welcome to the Comic Wall. It's me, the Outcast Angel, and today let's talk about issue 8 of Gasolina by Sean Mackiewicz and Niko Walter. Okay, so this issue had me nervous because from where we left off with Randy and Amalia in issue 7, Randy went to go sell the guns that they stole from Los Queridos to some guy named Chava, I believe, and Amalia stayed behind with Quique at the house. But late at night, they ended up getting some visitors. And leading those visitors, armed with guns, by the way, was Sylvia, the woman who was kind of giving Randy a hard time in issue 4 when he was stuck with all the women. And now we get to see exactly what they're doing there because uh, they don't look very friendly. So now Amalia is in self defense mode, which is actually the subtitle for this issue, which is Auto Defensas, which translates to self defense. And she's prepared to take on whatever threat they pose because they, first off, they come unannounced, and especially after the ambush or the attack with Los Queridos, and they're armed. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so Sylvia calls out saying that she only wants to talk, but Amalia's not buying it, and she ends up shooting out all the all four of the car's headlights. Now, I'm not exactly sure who these two guys are that Sylvia is with, but they don't seem to be fighters because one stays behind and he's like, "You said we were just gonna talk," but obviously Amalia's more react first and then talk later, kind of. And so Sylvia comes back up saying like we're not here for a fight. We really are here just to talk. So why do you come bearing guns and everything? It's like just think. One of the other guys manages to sneak up against the house and he peeks into Geeka's bedroom window, and all we see is just the lettering. Rus Wooton really is doing a great job on the lettering in this series. But we just see the sound, just the sound that usually comes when something is. I don't know how to say it exactly, but obviously with Quique having that little gusano in his chest, it's weird. So the guy freaks out and he's running back. It's saying the boy, the like, holy shit. But he ends up getting shot in the leg by Amalia and falls to the ground. And so Amalia comes out telling him to throw down their guns and that she's obviously not um, she's not looking to pick a fight, but obviously she can take care of herself if she has to. And now Sylvia is being a little bit unreasonable because I mean, one thing she says is, "You're an evil fucking bitch, Amalia. You'll have to reckon with many things when you die." And it's like you're coming onto her land, onto her property, bearing guns, saying you want to talk. Like, are you stupid? And then she starts going into this uh, I guess like you're not the only one who's lost people. Uh, we've lost people too, all of us. My sister, my cousin Ernesto, his two brothers, Juan, his girlfriend and daughter. Like she goes into that little rant, and she's saying that she and the rest of the people from the farm are banding together to fight against Los Queridos, but Amalia's not buying it. Like she Sylvia says that there's almost 50 of us, but Amalia says they're all farmers. And she's like, they killed my brother and rounded you all up. What makes you think you can stop that from happening again? And Sylvia says, you. Now I'm confused with Amalia's expression in this panel because she looks either disgusted or sympathetic. Like she could be either like this bitch, or she could be like, God damn it, Like I'm really bad at reading faces, and that's why I stick with comics and books. So Amalia has a change of heart and lets them into the house so that she can patch up the guy she shot and possibly talk. Now, the next scene, we see Chava, the guy who Randy sold the guns to, and he's on the phone talking to an American that as he calls it, and he's saying like, "This guy's selling me back the guns that I sold to you." And this guy who he looks pretty rugged. He almost looks like I would say a soldier, but he asks who, and Chava says an American like you, except darker, a lot darker. And this guy's like, "Tell me where to find him," but Chava hesitates, and this guy says, "Your life is the only thing I can give you in return for this information, Gavron. Like, come on, stupid." But who is this guy? We're already presented with a new uh, character and of a in a different country for that matter. I mean, we already have Mexico. We already have Russians. If you guys remember the submarine in issue 4 or 5, one of those, and now we're getting Americans involved. In this next scene, Randy's coming home and he sees that their gate is wide open, and he knows this isn't good. So he turns off his lights, and we see Amalia, after patching up the guy she shot, texting him. And uh, what's interesting is that they use a type of code, which, um, I don't really understand it all that much, but uh, Randy texts her leche, like milk, and she responds with cerveza, which is beer. So it's like milk, beer. And it's like, I don't understand exactly like what they mean by that, but I mean, obviously it's more that he's asking if there's trouble, and she's saying there is, kinda. So Randy comes in with his gun drawn, and he's not too happy, obviously, because there's people with guns on his land, and they're obviously not welcomed. And Amalia tells him that they want them to fight in their army, which Sylvia says there's almost 50 of them, but the guy she shot says there's only 32. But Randy is saying the same thing I said. So you bust our fence, sneak onto our land with guns to persuade us? Like, what kind of help do you expect? And so before he says anything, he wants these two guys out of his house and off his land. And I guess only then he'll really talk to Sylvia. So now we're introduced to a new character who is this old man. We don't exactly get a name from him, I think. But Luisa, the woman who's taking care of this little girl, Graciela, that we first met in issue 1, and that I believe to be Amalia's daughter, but there's still no uh, like concrete evidence against that. And Luisa is there to talk about the statue of La Querida, or the patron saint of death that Los Queridos are worshipping. And she just wants to ask him if he knows what it is, because as we saw in the last issue, they were everywhere in her neighborhood. They were just all over the place, all over the windows, all over the cars and the porches and everything. And this guy mentions that, oh yeah, I saw one on my porch. It was on my counter for 5 minutes when one of these two broke it, which he's referring to the dogs. And of course, we get presented with more dogs, as Sean promised in one of the other letters that I had mentioned. Because I was upset because he killed off one of the dogs in issue 5, I believe. Which brings me to another point. If whatever broke out of that dog got too big for its body, what does that mean for Quique? I mean, we see this creature on the sign, but we don't exactly see him throughout the issue. So what's going on? So back to this guy. He doesn't really have much to say about it, but he does say that the people around here, they think this will protect them. Then they are just as lost and stupid. And he tosses the statue in the trash. So now we're back with Randy and Amalia, and they're trying to talk about, like, what they're gonna do. And Randy's kind of poking fun at Amalia because uh, he's like, "Why'd you shoot that guy?" And she's like, "They tried to ambush me." And this is interesting because he's like, "Those three, las autodefensas de Veracruz, which the self defense of, Veracruz," and uh, it's weird because I guess they're trying to become as some kind of extremist group against the Los Queridos, because obviously it's turning into a cartel war, and they're gonna need all the help they can get. So while they're talking it over, Randy says, like, "I'm not itching for a fight, and especially against Los Queridos," and he ends up letting Sylvia back into the house to talk. So they sit Sylvia down and discuss exactly what she's wanting to do. And she says that Los Queridos have taken more people from the surrounding villages in the last week. Those of us that survived, we can't let that happen again. We can't allow them to settle in. And Amalia and Randy mentioned, like, they will massacre you all. That's how it ends. And there's like they're inventing new ways to kill. Like, this goes beyond just being monsters. And Sylvia brings up the night that Randy, Amalia, and the rest of the people escaped from the plantation, in which Sylvia was driving the rest of the women back into Veracruz, uh, and while they were driving, they saw one of the military trucks had crashed. And when she went to go investigate, she saw the driver that had been launched from the vehicle. And we see all these like snakes just writhing and feeding off of him. And that's what she says, that he was dead, but there was something in him, something alive, feeding, writhing through his body. And I wouldn't get back in the truck. I walked all the way to my cousin's. You're right. We don't have 50 people. We just have over half that. Some of them are young, and I don't want to see them killed. Some of them are old and finally know something worth dying for. And she mentions that the narcos that were living in town, she says that they organized, went to their houses and kicked in their doors and shot them to death. And that they're not waiting for the federales to save them, though. And so uh, Amalia still seems to consider this, kind of really think about it. But Randy has his mind made up. He can't. He says we can't help, and that's not anywhere near reality right now. They have Quique to take care of. At that point, we hear Quique, I guess, scratching at the door, at the bedroom door that Amalia locked him in, and so uh, Sylvia is like, "You keep the boy locked in the bedroom?" And we hear more scratching, and Randy asks her how long has he been like that. But before he can go check him out, she says, "No, don't." And she points to her chest where Quique has the gusano, and Randy's still set on checking up on him, but he pulls his gun, and as he's getting ready to go into the room, the issue ends with us seeing Sylvia in the background with these boils or these blisters coming up from her skin, and as we know, that usually means something bad, and I'm kind of scared for her, but at the same time, she's kind of a bitch, so I don't really care. And so that's the end of this issue. And I actually got a another letter printed in this issue. And I start with, hey Arielle and Sean, wow, a whole issue with Detective Arguello. I was wanting to see more of him. I thought he'd be more of a backup character like Jim Gordon is to Batman. He's there, but only when he needs to be. But this whole issue was very enjoyable, as always. And Sean replies with, he's one of the team's secret favorites. He's coming at Los Queridos from a different angle and catching the fallout of the assassination attempt on El Dorado. I didn't really see that as an assassination attempt, so I'm a little confused by that. There's a cartel war brewing, and Arguello is the only one who seems to see that. I'm also fascinated by aging men playing soccer, then firing up the grill and drinking beer afterwards. Well, that's kind of most every Mexican or Hispanic party, at least the ones I've been to. I continue with, I got chills when Arguello went into the club and came back out with an actual number of bodies. I guess El Dorado is crazier than I thought. Oh yeah, and a submarine? Really? Just seeing how he seemed unaffected by it versus the officer next to him. And poor dude. I'm curious, the head Arguello found in his apartment, was that his wife's or one of the heads missing from the scene? And Sean answers that with, it was one of the heads missing from the scene. It was a warning, and he won't get another one. And then I finish up with, lastly, I was just as relieved to see the women from the plantation made it out okay, and to the police as you were, Arielle. At least we get one happy ending. And that's where I finish with my letter. And so, yeah, this stuff's getting intense, and I'm so confused as to what's gonna happen because they don't want to fight. Amalia and Randy don't want to fight, but at the same time, still, what's going on with Quique? Because obviously that guy saw something that wasn't okay, and if anything, this sign is a sign, like it's foreboding something to come. Because Sean mentioned that when the creatures get too big for their bodies, it's kind of something like a hermit crab that has to look for a new home. What is coming out of Quique, and is Quique going to survive this? Probably not. So if you guys have any theories of your own, throw them down in the comments and we'll talk about it. And with that being said, this is the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, drop a like, show the love, hit that subscribe button to get more of my videos, ring the bell to get notifications of when I post new videos. That way you guys stay updated and don't miss out. And until next time, see you later. Bye.